Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Shake Sales. Today I'm excited to talk to Troy Munson. He's been an AE for quite some time, and we're going to talk about what it takes to be a successful AE in today's market. Troy, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Before you get started, could you just give us a quick background on what you're up to and your past roles?
Yeah, so I'm an enterprise AE at Proofpoint, so I cover some of the larger accounts here in North Carolina. But I've had a pretty extensive past, I guess you can say, and I've jumped around a decent amount. I rode the wave of COVID and said, "Hey, let me go try to chase OTE." I've made some mistakes and regrets here and there, but that's okay. But before Proofpoint, I was in Martech, but I started off in cybersecurity, and that's where I am today. So it's nice to get back. But yeah, I'm an enterprise AE. I post a lot on LinkedIn, and then I love side hustles as well. So I work on a couple things on the side.
Nice, awesome. So you've been. In fact, the fact that you jumped around makes this a better interview because now you can share your experience from like successes, failures, and whatnot. So I guess first and foremost question, what has changed in the market, right? Like all this buzz around like harder to sell, all this stuff. What's boots on the ground, your experience right now in selling?
Yeah, my experience right now is, well, one, I think it honestly falls on the AE. So I guess one thing you can say that's changed is, we were for the last 5 or 6 years, and I know that Mailshake helps with this. So we were so reliant on press play and your job is done as an AE. So when Sales Loft Outreach first came out, nobody cared about personalization. Nobody cared about being relevant. It was just, holy cow, I can go email 5,000 people in a click of a button. I'm going to do it. I don't need to care about my prospect. And so I think that a lot of people were like relying on that. That's one thing. But now that you can do personalization at scale with things like Mailshake, but also even like videos like SendSpark and stuff like that, it's really cool to see how the game has changed there. But also I've noticed that I feel like gone are the days where people have budget and they can spend it just because something seems fun and nice to test out. Like the nice to haves are no longer a priority to the companies. I think that you have to be a need to have or position yourself as a need to have. So I think positioning has changed big time. Back then it's like, hey, I can get you 30% on reply rates, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's like, I don't care about that. What's it going to mean to my business? So for me, I've noticed that instead of just selling something out of excitement, it's more so like it's creating a business case at the end of the day. Like, what really is this going to do for your business? And then like, because I work with larger accounts, I have 10, 15, 20 people evaluating my solution. I need to make sure that each and every person understands the value and I can pinpoint, hey, that person over there, they're not a big fan of us. What can I do to go neutralize them and at least get them a little bit on my team? So I think it's more like attention to detail, not just doing this whole press play and hoping that things pan out, but it's just like focusing on the actual buyer and then that collaboration and journey process.
Love it. Yeah, I think there's three big areas you mentioned that we could either dig into and that I just want to reiterate. One is you have to demonstrate the ROI or the value in the need to have. Number two, you mentioned is multiple stakeholders and multiple, maybe not decision makers, but like there's multiple roles, and then demonstrating value to each role is important too. And frankly, the whole press play and just rehearsed talk tracks with no tie into the ROI or any of that stuff is just probably doesn't work anymore. Unless maybe you're like Zoom or someone where like the buyer intent is super heavy, but like when does that happen, right? In a sales role, like those are you just get lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like the folks that have joined a sales organization, just the sales world post COVID or like COVID and onwards, are just so unprepared and undertrained for what it takes to sell in the real world, right? Like we had a 3-4 year, maybe 2-3 year window where like everyone's flush with cash, debt's cheap. It's an opportunity cost of spend the money so you can capture market share, that shit's gone, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh
like
yeah.
the question I'm getting to is like, so what if you were a sales rep that started or in sales, you started your sales career during this time? Like, what are things or places or what do people need to learn or like get trained up on?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I talk about this a lot and I think about it a lot. I think that 2 to 3 years ago, like tech was the place to be, right? And now it's like,
Mhm.
do you really want to be in tech? It's not the same anymore. You can't just go make 200K because you joined a company, right? It's like you really gotta grind.
Mhm.
So I think one thing that's changed is be a BDR. At the end of the day, I don't care if you're a sales rep where you only have 5 accounts, they're the largest accounts in the world, and you want to like expand the business, or I don't care if you're a rep where you have 1,000 accounts. Like you have to be a BDR and try to figure out where, based on so much different research. That's a whole different topic in itself. But I think that now, back then you didn't have to do research on companies. Now you really have to understand like what is the business doing, and you have to understand, I guess, backtracking that a little bit, you have to understand where to spend your time. Like if you have 1,000 accounts, chances are I'd probably say 10% of those are probably a really good customer fit, because the last thing you want to do is bring on bad customers, churn, business goes bad, all that good stuff, right? So I think it's one, identifying like, hey, who are really good customer fits? Two, understanding those businesses, but more than just oh, this company does video conferencing. More than just that, like how do they make money? Who's the decision maker over there? Who are other people that can influence the deal? All that good stuff. So really understanding their business and then creating a hypothesis. So, hey, this is what their business does. This is what my business does. And this is how I think that we can help them. One little practice you can do there is just go to a careers page, see if they have a relevant career to, what you're trying to sell to. So if it's cybersecurity,
Mhm.
maybe a security architect, and then just go to that careers page, look at the job description and map out each one to your product. Like, hey, they're trying to do this. Well, that's how we can help. They're trying to do this. That's also how we can help. And now you have like this hypothesis of, hey, they're hiring this role. And then here's all the 8 things they want that role to do. And this is the 8 things that we can help with. So that's one tactical thing that I do to try to understand. Yeah, they're probably a good fit because of X, Y, and Z.
Makes sense. Yeah. Um, I think it's super helpful. Two things I'd say to add to this, what my team does at Mailshake is prior to the demo, we have full cycle reps. But prior to the demo or the conversation with the prospect, uh, we really work hard to follow up on like email them, message them, get in contact and hear what their pain points are. Like what the heck are they here to solve? Right. So
Yep.
I don't know, so I don't know about you guys, but we have like 700, we have a lot of different ICPs and use cases, right? We've got recruiters, sales, marketing, and frankly, we
Mhm.
have, common talk tracks and like how to position it to ROI. And I think what you just described is a genius way to just like, what are the priorities? But I think the most effective way, if you can do this, is just ask, like literally
Yeah.
get in front of their face and like, what are you looking to do? How do you measure ROI on this? Pause and say, okay, well, let me now look at my Rolodex and here's how you can do this, right? Go map to an experience from a
Yep.
customer or a use case or whatever. And if you don't have it, my 2 cents number two is like, do not try to fake it. No more faking shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
let me get back to you. I'm pretty sure we have customers that do this. I want to be well prepared. Let me get back to you. But in the meantime, I can answer questions and blah, blah, blah. And then you have like kind of like a hook to get back to them on.
Hmm.
Or you position it as like, I don't have this answer. I cannot bullshit you because you can see through this. But anyways,
Yeah.
super helpful. What do where do you, and last question here is where do you go to kind of keep up to date, learn, level up for yourself? Like, how do you do it? You reading stuff, you're talking to folks, joining courses.
Yeah, great question. LinkedIn is kind of like my go-to, right? And there's several great creators there, but I also think there's several that if they were to join a different company, they'd be eaten alive. So I think that's LinkedIn has really great free information. And there are courses that I've taken. I've actually only taken 2 courses. Both of them were great, especially when I moved into a large enterprise role. Kyle on LinkedIn, I think it's like Kyle C, but it's spelled ASAY. His course was great for enterprise. And then Mike Gallardo also has a great course that helped me out a lot too. So those are 2 areas, but also, I guess, kind of unrelated, maybe not relevant to everybody, but I really like to understand the industry that I'm selling to. So I listen to like, I sell cybersecurity. So I listen to like what's going on in the cybersecurity world. And I listen to a weekly podcast because the more I know, the more professional, the more trusting I sound when I'm talking to a prospect or when I'm talking to even a customer that's, already paying and I want them to buy more, I guess you can say. So that's another thing is like if you're selling into a specific persona, learn to speak their language. And you can do that. Like there's podcasts on everything out there. So I'd say go take some courses for sure. Definitely take some courses. And then from there, like be an expert in the industry that you're selling into, because you're gonna sound like an expert on the phone. They're gonna trust you. They're gonna read it. And like you said, no more faking it. And the best way to not fake it is to know what the hell you're talking about. So
Love it. Love it. Yeah, that's fantastic. And like I think you made a good point. So like there's like the basics of like maybe entering your career or pivoting over. You can learn just the format, the structure through courses. And
mhm.
I think the real way to learn, and this is like I've been doing this as an entrepreneur for like 20 years of training folks, is we do this daisy chain. So the way to learn is take action on whatever. Let's say we talked about learning Mandarin. Well, go learn how to say 10 sentences. Okay. That's action on whatever you read. The way to cement that in is go train your peer or the
Mhm.
next person on how to speak those 10 sentences. And what happens is, in order for you to teach, you'll do a horrible job and you find out you actually suck at what you say and have to relearn it. Or number two is you end up getting better because in order for you to train that person, you have to like learn it in a way you can teach, right? It's like
Mhm.
really more mastery. So this daisy chain of training works really, really well. And
Yeah.
like I said, we do it for all of our sales hires. And like I'll go watch the recordings. My head of sales will watch recordings, and we'll actually fix what the rep that's doing the training is messing up on along the way. So it's like it's a good way to audit things too. But anyways, Troy, where can people go to learn more, follow along a career, whatnot?
Yeah. I'd just say LinkedIn's the easiest place. Look up Troy Munson. I hope I'd be up there on one of the top searches. I'm not sure. But if not, Troy Munson at Proofpoint, I should pop up and I'll share. I don't know. I typically post 2 times a day, anything sales related or entrepreneurship or LinkedIn related, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.